Storytelling as a tool for classroom differentiation. The day a story opened every door in the classroom. The seventh-grade science room hummed with its usual afternoon restlessness, the soft thud of backpacks against chair legs, the faint scent of pencil shavings, the glow of sunlight slipping through half-closed blinds. A few students whisper in the back row, their voices blending with the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of someone's sneaker against the tile floor. On the board, the lesson waited: ecosystems, cause and effect, a topic that often felt distant, abstract, and dry. Then the lights dimmed just slightly, enough to shift the air, not enough to signal a movie, and the story began. "Picture a forest," the voice said, low and steady. A quiet one. Morning light stretching across the ground like warm gold. Pine needles soft underfoot. A river nearby, moving slow and silver. The room stilled. Students leaned in, drawn by the sensory pull of the scene. The chatter faded. The tapping stopped. In this forest, the voice continued. A single wolf steps into the clearing. Its fur catches the light. Its breath curls into the cool air. It doesn't know it yet, but every move it makes will change the entire ecosystem. A student in the front row, usually distracted, usually distant, blinked hard, as if the wolf had stepped into the classroom. When the wolf hunts, the story went on. The deer shift their grazing patterns. When the deer shift, the plants grow differently. When the plants grow differently, the soil changes. And when the soil changes, the river changes. A quiet gasp came from the left side of the room. "So, the wolf is part of the river?" The question hung in the air like a spark. "Yes," the voice answered. "Everything is connected. One story affects another." Suddenly, ecosystems weren't diagrams or vocabulary words. They were alive, breathing, moving, unfolding in real time. How the story differentiated itself without trying. As the narrative deepened, each learner found a doorway into understanding. The visual thinkers saw the forest in their minds, the shifting light, the moving deer, the changing river, and sketched the scene with surprising precision. The analytical thinkers mapped the chain of cause and effect, turning the story into a web of relationships. The kinesthetic learners stood and mimicked the movements of predator and prey, embodying the ecosystem through motion. The reflective learners wrote journal entries from the wolf's perspective, exploring how one creature could influence an entire world. The emotionally attuned learners connected with the wolf's role, not as villain or hero, but as part of a larger narrative where every action mattered. One story, 5 pathways. Differentiation woven seamlessly into the fabric of the moment. The turning point. Near the end of class, a student who often struggled with science raised a hand slowly, almost cautiously. "So, if one thing changes, everything changes." Like in life, the room fell into a thoughtful quiet, the kind that signals real learning. Another student added, "It's like we're all part of story too." And just like that, ecosystems became personal. The lesson became lived. The content became meaningful. Why the story worked? Because storytelling does what worksheets cannot. 1. It anchors abstract concepts in sensory detail. 2. It creates emotional relevance, which strengthens memory. 3. It opens multiple learning pathways without separating students. 4. It invites identity, empathy, and perspective-taking. 5. It turns information into experience, the most durable form of learning. In middle school, where development varies wildly and identity is under construction, storytelling becomes a differentiated tool that meets every learner exactly where they are. The quiet truth beneath the lesson. Differentiation doesn't always require leveled texts, color-coded groups, or separate assignments. Sometimes, it simply requires a story, one narrative strong enough to hold every learner, flexible enough to be interpreted in many ways, and human enough to matter. In that 7th grade classroom, the wolf taught ecosystems, but it also taught something deeper. Every learner is part of a story, and every story is a pathway into learning. Storytelling as differentiation. reaching every middle school mind. Veteran middle school educators know this truth well. Middle school isn't just a grade band. It's a world unto itself. It's an age of contradictions, where learners crave independence yet need reassurance, debate philosophy one moment, and misplace their homework the next. In this dynamic landscape, storytelling becomes one of the most powerful forms of differentiated instruction available. Stories speak every language of learning. When a story enters a classroom, whether about a wolf in the forest, a scientist chasing discovery, or a character navigating moral choices, something remarkable happens. Eyes lift, shoulders settle, the room synchronizes. This response is rooted in neuroscience. Jerome Bruner's work shows that humans think naturally in narrative form, and Mary Helena Mordinayan's research demonstrates that emotion and cognition are inseparable. Stories activate multiple neural pathways: auditory, visual, emotional, and kinesthetic, giving every learner a way in. In a differentiated classroom, that means visual thinkers map the story arc. Auditory learners absorb rhythm and tone. Kinesthetic learners dramatize or reenact. Reflective learners journal or analyze character motivation. One narrative, many entry points, differentiation in motion. Story as bridge between concrete and abstract. Middle schoolers live in the in-between, still concrete thinkers, yet reaching toward abstraction. Stories help them cross that bridge safely. A physics concept becomes a tale of motion and resistance. A civics lesson becomes a story of choice and consequence. A math problem becomes a journey of discovery. Through narrative, abstract principles gain faces, stakes, and meaning. Storytelling transforms content into experience, making the invisible visible. Narrative as identity work. By 7th grade, students are drafting early versions of who they are. They test identities in the stories they tell and the ones they choose to believe. When learners write from multiple perspectives, reimagine historical events through their own lens, or connect personal experience to academic content, they're not just practicing literacy, they are practicing self-definition. Differentiated storytelling gives every student permission to belong. It communicates to them that your story matters here. Emotion, empathy, and a safe container of story. Middle school emotions arrive like weather fronts, unpredictable, intense, overlapping. Storytelling offers a safe container for that variability. Narrative allows students to explore fear, hope, conflict, or curiosity through characters rather than personal disclosure. It cultivates empathy, the ability to inhabit another's world and see through another's eyes. And empathy is foundational to classroom harmony. Differentiation is not only cognitive, it is emotional. Storytelling honors both. Even science has a story to tell. In science classrooms, storytelling is often the secret ingredient. Every experiment begins with a question, a mystery waiting to unfold. Every data set hides a narrative of cause, effect, trial, error, and discovery. When students frame lab reports as stories, what happened when light met matter? They shift from memorizing facts to constructing meaning. This aligns with NGSS's phenomena-based learning, where narrative becomes a scientific tool. The teacher as story architect. Differentiated storytelling does not require every lesson to become a fable. It simply means every lesson has a human thread, a narrative spine that connects diverse learners to shared understanding. Differentiation through storytelling can occur via medium, written, oral, visual, digital. Perspective, first person, third person, collective. Outcome, analysis, performance, reflection, creation. The story provides the framework. Differentiation provides the design. The heart of it all. Storytelling reminds educators that teaching is not just about delivering content. It's about connecting lives. In a middle school classroom, every learner is a story in progress. Teaching through narrative means teaching to the whole child. Thinker, feeler, dreamer, doer. This is differentiation that lasts, not only through a unit or semester, but through a lifetime of learning.